This is my opinion. We're going to talk about it. Okay, family, in 1959, we had the Cuban Revolution. um, Castro came into office and he was a communist leader, and the ultra rich of the society saw which way the wind was blowing and they hightailed it out. The Carter administration was like, word? Okay, well, they came to Florida, to Miami, and they're like, hey, okay, well, we'll take them. We'll take your asylum seekers. And so, the middle class came. Pretty much everybody that could get out got out. And Castro said, all right, you want our asylum seekers? He emptied out the prisons and the mental hospitals and shipped them over. So here these hardworking Cubans come and they like start making life for themselves, and you know what I'm saying, establish themselves in the community, and then the next thing you know, all the whole criminal class comes. Well, with the criminal class comes the purest, cheapest cocaine America has ever seen. Now, there were some wars between the Cubans and the Colombians. We learned all about the famous Colombian necktie. And for an example of just how crazy and how horrible things got, go watch the movie Scarface. Now, let's fast forward into the 80s. In the 80s, the CIA needed to fund their forever war in the Middle East. And so they, through COINTELPRO, taught drug kingpins on both coasts how to make crack. Now, not only was the cocaine the purest and the cheapest, now with crack, it could be sold even cheaper. And it was guaranteed people will keep coming back. And so the 80s was a pretty crazy time, and crack came and put a foothold in our community. Now we fast forward to 1994 during the Clinton administration when we got Biden's law signed in. And that was the 94 crime bill with all the lovely mandatory minimums for people that dealt with crack and a much reduced sentencing for people that only dealt with powder, because the majority of the people that dealt with the crack were black. And so it came in and ravaged and devastated our communities, and it still is doing damage to this day. People that got sentenced for selling crack, some of those kingpins got life in prison. If you notice, like, we're hearing about Larry Hoover getting out, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but they're coming out. Oh, Freeway, Ricky Ross, or they're just coming out of prison from the 90s. It's 2020 and they're just coming out of prison. So you understand how it was crazy. And people were going to prison for double digit years for possession. Like the mandatory minimums on crack was excessive, and a lot of people, a lot of lives were damaged, and a lot of lives were spent in prison, young lives too. And so we're going to fast forward again to 2020 when President Biden flung open the borders and said, we want all your asylum seekers. And Venezuela said, what? And Venezuela opened up their prisons and sent their criminals over here. Now, I'm not saying that all Venezuelans are criminals. They're not. You know, there are the ones that came to work and to make a new life for themselves. We're not talking about them. We're talking about those prison gangs, those. So that's 2020. Fast forward to 2024, where we have Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment complexes like New Jack City. The complex isn't getting paid. The properties are getting damaged. The no repairs are being made, and they're using squatters laws. And so you see what it takes to get evicted. And all the people that were paying, all the real paying, those tenants are gone. They had a month to get out and find a new place to live. So that's in Aurora, Colorado. In New York, we have Venezuelan gangs shooting at cops. There's a hit out on cops everywhere. This gang or gangs, I don't even know how that is working. Here's what I know though. We see the playbook. We already know what happens. It never ends well for us as African Americans. And so we have to do something, and we have to start doing it now. We can't wait till it to come and hit our doorstep. We have to get prepared now. And so in that preparation, I say we need the neighborhood watch, because we need to protect the women and the seniors and the children. We need to be taking care and patrolling our neighborhoods, so things like that, like gangs like that, don't get a foothold where you live. We need to get ready. And Aurora and New York, like, and Chicago, like, the thing is that the cops won't do anything, and they catch them and they release them. It's not helping anybody. And so because of that, people feel like they're on their own. Well, if we're on our own and we have to figure this out, then let's figure it out. And we can start by having a neighborhood watch and looking out for each other and looking out for any suspicious activity. So that's where I am with that. I believe in militias. I believe we should be able to protect ourselves when the government can't or won't. We should be able to do that. And so if you are, we have several here in Georgia, but I mean, start thinking about making one where you are. The last thing I want to say is this is a spiritual battle. And so many of these gangs worship Santa Muerte, and that's like a goddess of death. Well, we are soldiers of the Most High God, and that's not acceptable here. And so we have to get on the field and get our prayer life right, because we have to pray against these small g gods that come in with people as they come. That's not acceptable to us. And so we have to pray against it. Who? The goddess of death? No, you're not bringing death and destruction here. We're God's people. This is God's land. Well, join us again next time when In His Will Ministries International presents Just My Opinion. Until then, bye.